You stand in your driveway, look up at the house, and see a perfect grid of asphalt. The shingles look flat. The color is even. It is easy to assume your home is perfectly protected. But a dark stain spreading across your living room ceiling is rarely the beginning of a problem. It is the final stage. Months before that drywall gets wet, water has already been quietly working its way through the dark spaces above your head. Here in Kettering, a roof faces a brutal, year-round gauntlet. Spring gales pry at the edges. Summer heat bakes the surface. Fall debris clogs the drainage paths, and winter freeze-thaw cycles violently force ice into every microscopic gap. Survival depends on a highly engineered, layered weather control system designed to manage every environmental variable at once. By the time a leak finally breaches the interior, a simple, inexpensive repair is often off the table. You are suddenly paying to reconstruct rotted wooden decking and rip out ruined insulation. The entire structure relies on the roof deck, the wide sheets of plywood or OSB that form the base layer. If moisture reaches this wood, it softens. A soft deck cannot grip the nails holding the surface layers together, creating a chain reaction of failures. This animated diagram breaks down the defenses protecting that wood. Directly above the deck sits the underlayment. This is the critical secondary barrier designed to stop any wind-driven rain that manages to slip past the outer layer. Along the lower eaves and edges, a specialized ice and water shield is applied. This rubberized membrane physically seals itself around every single nail hole, preventing melting winter snow from seeping into the wood during rapid temperature drops. Those barriers are tested heavily at the edges. When fall leaves pile up in gutters, rainwater has nowhere to go. It pools, rises, and eventually pushes backward, wedging itself up underneath those protective membranes. You could install the most expensive, heavy-duty asphalt shingles on the market, but if the invisible foundation beneath them rots, the whole structure inevitably fails. Most moisture failures do not happen in the middle of a wide open stretch of roof. The real vulnerabilities lie at the transitions, the places where different angles meet or the material changes. These intersections act as funnels. During a heavy downpour, two sloping roof sections combine their runoff, channeling massive, high-velocity volumes of water directly through a very narrow space. To survive that intense water pressure, these joints are armored with flashing, custom-fitted pieces of metal that bridge the gaps and physically deflect water away from the seams. Flashing is required anywhere something punches through the roof deck. That means the borders around your chimney, the rubber boots sealing plumbing vents, and the borders framing your skylights. Reusing bent, fatigued metal flashing during a repair carries immense risk, and laying down a heavy layer of caulking is a temporary measure that will eventually crack and shrink, leaving the seam wide open. The risk increases when leaves and twigs collect in the roof valleys. That debris acts like a wet sponge, holding dampness directly against those vital metal joints for days after the rain actually stops. A tightly sealed expanse of shingles means nothing if a single transition point is compromised. The unseen seams dictate the true integrity of the entire home. The single most overlooked mechanism in this whole structure has nothing to do with keeping water out. It is entirely about letting air move. This cross-section shows how proper attic ventilation works. Cool outside air is pulled in through intake vents under the lower eaves. It sweeps under the roof deck and pushes the hot, stale air out through the exhaust vents at the very peak. When that intake flow gets blocked, the summer sun turns the attic space into an oven. That trapped, extreme heat bakes the roofing materials from the bottom up, prematurely blistering and curling the asphalt right off the house. In winter, the lack of airflow traps warm, humid air rising from inside the living space. It condenses on the freezing wood above, quietly rotting the deck, while trapped heat melts roof snow that quickly refreezes at the cold eaves, forming destructive ice dams. If a contractor nails a pristine, brand-new layer of shingles over an unventilated attic, they guarantee a drastically shortened lifespan for that new material. The building must be able to breathe. Without a functional lung, the house destroys its own exterior armor from the inside out. Catching a small vulnerability early protects your bank account. The costs associated with late-stage, widespread moisture damage heavily outweigh the price of routine maintenance. Swapping out a single cracked rubber pipe boot takes minimal time and resources. Rebuilding sections of waterlogged structural decking and replacing ruined attic insulation requires a major construction project. You should have the system evaluated after any major Midwest storm brings heavy wind and hail, or the moment your roof enters the second half of its expected lifespan. A complete tear-off and replacement becomes necessary only when the materials become too brittle to hold fasteners, or when localized repairs can no longer stabilize the broader system. Diagnosing these interconnected layers requires someone getting up on the surface and physically inspecting the dark spaces inside the attic. A quick glance from the driveway reveals absolutely nothing about the actual health of the structure. Master Roof Kettering specializes in finding these exact structural vulnerabilities. Secure your home by scheduling a comprehensive, professional inspection before a quiet weakness above your ceiling turns into an unavoidable disaster inside your living room.